Welcome back to the Republic of Rugby. Come and join the community. Get stuck in the comments and subscribe to the channel. I'm Tim with Jordan, and we have got a north and south perspective on everything rugby. And on this video, we're going to start with a look at the ridiculously sized 70-man Springbok squad that Rassie Erasmus has confirmed now that he has named all the overseas players to go along with the South African-based ones. What was it, 49 in SA and 21 based around the world?
That is correct, to make up your 70-man Springbok squad, which is ridiculous. And I'm so glad we've made it through Six Nations. As much as I love Six Nations, we get to speak about the Springboks now. Now, no one in the comments can say I can't speak about the Springboks. So... Rassie Erasmus naming a 70-man squad. What's the perspective from a Northern Hemisphere person, fan, on this enormous squad?
It's just showing off, isn't it? It's just showing off. He doesn't need to name 70 men, but he can. So I'm going to. He could probably name 170 and it would still be a fairly decent quality. And particularly in some positions, there are really good players who aren't included, but could legitimately have a shout. It's insane. There's some really interesting names. I think that the two names that have caught the eye in the latest batch is, well, JJ van der Mescht, who just looks like a giant baby. He's absolutely enormous. He's like something that would have appeared at a circus, 150 years ago. He is, and get to watch him up close and personal now. I watch a lot of French rugby, so he's been playing for Stade Francais and now for Northampton Saints. What do you make of him, or what are they? Has he been on the radar in South Africa?
I think he's been on certain people's radars, but I mean, the lock department in Springbok rugby is ridiculous with the depth. I think last year we saw there were a couple of injuries, so we had to sort of dig a little bit deeper into our depth. So I think this is just a bit of a safeguard that Rassie Erasmus is bringing him in, just in case we have an Earben out because he poked someone in the eye, a Lut Diache injured, an Archie Snyman injured. So I think it's just building that extra depth in case. I mean, we've got to remember that 33 guys are going to a World Cup. A lot of these guys, more than half of these guys, are going to get axed from this 70-man squad. And the lineman camp, I think what a lot of people mistake about it is that this isn't necessarily saying these guys are getting caps. This is just bringing guys into, quote unquote, the Springbok system, understanding the culture, understanding the systems, how they want to play rugby moving forward. So that if there are multiple injuries in a position, these guys aren't coming in cold. They're coming in, they know exactly what the Springboks are about, where they're going, what the strategy is. JJ van der Mescht, I haven't watched too much of him, obviously being in the Northern Hemisphere, but he's obviously massive. He's obviously South African. So I don't think we can go too wrong with that. I mean, you look at the beasts in that lock department. I'm just struggling to see where he fits in. And I think to my point of he's just coming in to learn the systems. And I think after the 2027 World Cup, we'll see a big rotation of sort of the old guard heading out and the new guard sort of coming in. And I think he's probably part of that new guard.
I would say he's in the mould of Emmanuel Meafu. He is a very different type of lock, and he's a very French type of lock, actually. They have a position in their pack they call Le Poutre, which means the beam. And basically it's the guy that, like Emmanuel Meafu, isn't going to jump in a line-out, but is going to carry all day long and is going to scrummage behind the tight head. And he's that kind of a player. And actually what's really interesting is he was due to qualify to play for France, like Paul Willems did, this year, but he decided to go to Northampton Saints. And presumably he was sort of thinking he could still throw his lot in with the box. It would be a departure. I think you would use him if he ever got caps and if he was part of a squad in the future. I think it will be for a very specific role, and he might be a 20-minute guy at the end of games just to do a very particular job that's different from anybody else. And that might be possibly what Rassie Erasmus is thinking with him. But it's really interesting. There's so many good young players that have already, I've already been included in the squad as well. So the next gen, if Rassie wants to turn the soil over a little bit, it's there, isn't it?
100%. I think it is worth mentioning just on that Northampton Saints aspect, he's now moved to Ulster. Jordan Augustus has missed out again. Last year he was included in a couple of alignment camps, got injured, didn't get any caps because he was injured. But a lot of people are asking sort of, where's Jordan Augustus? Now again, I think it comes down to depth. You've got Cameron Hanekom, Ulrich Loh, Jasper Visser, all of these guys, Quagga Smith, fighting for that number 8 jersey. But
Evan
Jordan
Roos.
Augustus is Evan Roos. There you go. But Jordan Augustus has sort of put his hand up over the past couple of seasons. He was almost in the system last year. What do you think anything's happened there? Do you think Rassie Erasmus has just said, maybe we're just going to stick with these 5-6 guys and develop them? Because a lot of people have been asking sort of, where's Jordan Augustus?
Yeah, and he has been really, really good. I would say from what I've seen with him, his highs are incredibly high. He has amazing games, and then he'll have quiet games. So that's just, when you hear Rassie Erasmus talk, like that's a quality that he does not accept, is it? He needs to know what he likes a high ceiling, but he likes a high floor as well. It's like, and look at the classic example, Pete Steph Toy is never below an 8 out of 10, ever. And that level of consistency might be something that maybe has counted against him. It might be an age thing. I doubt that that's the case. So exactly the kind of person I was talking about. You could pick a much bigger squad and you'd still have great players that would feature for other international teams. Here's one thought I have, Jordan. I think the Springboks are, and one of the reasons that they are so good, aside from having great players, is that they operate more like a club team than any other country. They have way more contact together than any other country, like a club team. They have a larger squad than anyone else, like a club team. And how do I put this? Some of the players appear to almost treat their club season like a pre-season, where they don't take too many miles off the clock. They're not going to put it all in, and then they really hit go time when July comes around. What do you think of that? Fair comment?
I think it's a fair comment. Springbok rugby in South Africa is the pinnacle of the sport, where I know in France, top 14 is arguably the pinnacle of the sport, and there's a couple of reasons for that. You'll know a little bit more about how the French system works, but in South Africa, the Springbok brand and how the Springboks perform and their results pay for everything else. So if the Springboks aren't performing well, you take us back to 2016, 2017, where they were 50% capacity stadium. Springbok rugby was in a very, very bad place. And now they've sort of got it into a spot where, again, we've won 2 Rugby World Cups in a row. Get stuck into me in the comments. But it's in a really good spot financially as well. Saru have been doing some very good business behind the scenes with all of these new brands coming on, charging more. And now this is a controversial topic, charging more for tickets, making more money off of the games to evidently grow the game within South Africa, because all that money funnels down. So they need to capitalize on the Springboks over those 6 months. So yes, it's run more like a club team, and France, and I think maybe you can get into this a little bit more, is France, the club, the top 14 is sort of the top, and then the funds kind of trickle down to the international team from there. Am I reading that right?
Yeah, well, what I think is really interesting is, so there are players who are, and this is not a criticism of those players. I genuinely admire the ethos and the group and the cohesion that Rassie Erasmus has with his squad. In England, if some of the players played as infrequently for their Premiership team, or as maybe poorly for their Premiership team, as some of the Boks appear to for some of their time in the URC.
Name them, Tim. Name and shame them.
Yeah, I don't need to. No, but these are World Cup winning elite level players. So it's not a criticism, but it's weird that sort of culturally in England, players that don't turn out regularly and play really well consistently for their Premiership team don't get a look in for the national team. And you know what? The more time goes by, the more I think Eddie Jones was right when he always used to talk about test match animal, mate. He's not a test match animal. That's what he always used to say as England coach. And the further we get away from Eddie Jones, the more I think, you know what, he's right. And I think Rassie Erasmus recognises there are guys that have it. and they can switch it on at that elite level. And so if he doesn't see it in the URC, he doesn't panic. It's like, well, I know what that guy's capable of, and that's all that matters. So in England, it operates differently, where it's like you have to prove yourself in the Premiership, and then all the fans say, oh, he played better than him in the Premiership, therefore pick him for England. And in France, as you've already touched on, it's different again, because unlike any other country in the world, rugby is paid for in France by the top 14. Everything is paid for by the top 14. And I almost think that people who don't understand the French rugby probably don't appreciate this as much. Imagine if the URC franchises in South Africa paid for everything in South Africa. Suddenly, like, those games would mean way, way more. And having all of those players available for all of those matches would be non-negotiable. Their salaries would be being paid by that, and that's how it operates in France. And that's actually why I think France struggle when it comes around to World Cups, because so many of their players have put so many miles on the clock in between World Cups that they have loads of injuries. They've got players that are just completely, bodies are ruined. Whereas in South Africa, like, the players, the reason they're managing to get to the next World Cup, and for some of them a third or fourth World Cup, is exactly because they don't put many miles on the clock in between World Cups. And I'm genuinely quite jealous of that.
It's almost a double-edged sword, because you've got these massive names, your Siya Kolisis, your Eben Etzebeths, like the really top-end stars within the game, who arguably don't play that many Sharks or whatever club they're with. But on the other side of the sword, that then opens up opportunities for the younger guys to sort of come through. So these guys have established themselves. We know that they're double World Cup winning rugby players. We know what they can deliver in a Springbok shirt, which then opens up, and we've seen it, the players being called up. Let's just take the Sharks, for example. Siya maybe not getting as much game time. Manu Chichuka has now been named in an alignment camp. Vincent Chichuka, his brother, has also been named in an alignment camp. You look at Yaku Williams, who got an opportunity on the wing for the Sharks, with Edwin van der Merwe, Makazole Mapimpi also being in that squad. So yes, while it is frustrating, and it is frustrating as a Bulls fan, as a Sharks fan, as a Stormers fan, Lions fan, to watch your team, and you know that we have all these big stars in the change room that aren't playing. But in the overall ecosystem of South African rugby, I would almost argue that it is better, because these top-end Sears, Ebens are going to perform better for the Springboks, where all the money's made, and it's going to give the smaller guys opportunity to sort of come through and be able to reach the top end of the game, which is Springbok level for us.
That's exactly right. 100%. And the talent factory that there is, schoolboy level, and I mean, obviously, Marcus Muller being the youngest guy named in that recent squad, but the talent factory in the schoolboy, the varsity, and the provincial system, there's actually there's spots for them to go. And then if not that, then the fact South Africa keep the door open when you go abroad. Carlu Sadi in Bordeaux is still, might be on the radar for the box. That just means you've got all bases covered. I'm jealous, like I say, and it's a little frustrating as an Englishman. I'm looking at Tom Willis would make such a difference, Jack Willis, and I'd love as much. And what's more than that, South Africa have every single box ticked. You play in the URC, so regularly play up north. You play in the Rugby Championship, so you regularly play the teams in the south. And now there's the Nations Championship, where you get a bit of both. You have players playing in Japan, who the older players get to go and, it's a shorter season, less intense season, so they keep themselves fresh. You get guys who, if they want to get paid well, they can go and play abroad and still play for their national team. And now, because the money is coming back to South Africa, because everyone's so into the box, there's plenty of cash to get guys back into SA as well. And unfortunately, it just feels like the domination is going to continue, because all of those things are tick, tick, tick in terms of what would you do, how would you organise it to give yourself the best possible chance to win the next Rugby World Cup, and you would do it exactly as South Africa are doing it, which is not how other countries operate.
Do you think there's a little bit of secret sauce in, I'm looking at the names of this virtual alignment camp. You've got Carlu Sadi, plays for Bordeaux in France, JJ Van der Mescht, who you acknowledged almost like could have played for France if he stayed there another year. You've got Herschel Yankees that has not been associated with the Springboks for years, plays for Bayern. Do you think Rassie Erasmus has noticed something in France? I mean, we've just seen France win the Six Nations, and he's kind of calling these guys into an alignment camp to almost spill the beans a little bit of what's going on there in France. France are obviously one of the best teams in the world at the moment. It's a massive threat for the 2027 Rugby World Cup. Do you think there's any merit in that thinking of let's get these French-based players in just to kind of, we can hear from England, we can hear from Japan, we can hear from South Africa and the URC, but maybe that France association is maybe the one that's lacking?
Maybe so some sleeper agents is what you're saying. Sent out. That's a really interesting thought. I mean, that would. I don't want to be unkind, but I was surprised to see Herschel Yankee's name in there, being as he's kind of the backup scrum half at the top 14 team that's third or fourth bottom in the top 14 table. So, but I guess that just shows maybe the number of players that they've got. But I'm not expecting him to get a cap this year. So that maybe he's got some beans to spill on the French way.
Because you look at how
I'll put nothing past Rassie.
Because you look at how France played the Six Nations, and besides that blimp against Scotland, were the most dominant team by quite a stretch in the Six Nations. What do you think are those lessons that Rassie Erasmus or the Springbok coaching staff, the Springboks, are looking back at the Six Nations, analysing these 5 rounds? What do you think their biggest key takeaways are? Whether it's from that England-France game, whether it's from how France were able to dominate Ireland, Wales' resurgence, Italy are getting stuff right. Where do you think those sort of 2 to 3 key points are that Rassie and the boys will be looking at and being like, that's the spot?
That's a good question. I don't think he'll be particularly worried in any one direction. But definitely he will have. I think he will have taken note of the fact that England's scrum and maul is much better and might be the closest to the box in the world. We'll wait and see. We'll see in July. But I think that will definitely be something he will have taken note of. But I think he will have also taken note of how easily England can be scored against and the weakness they have on the edges. And I also think he will have taken note of, France have finally, we did kill off the notion that they could play their game. I'm talking about South Africa. Back in November was the nail in the coffin of the French being able to ignore the aerial side of the game, and they dropped Damien Penaud. And I said to you, this means they're changing, and they have changed significantly, and they've gone from being really, really poor to actually it being a strength. So that's going to be a really interesting matchup, although the flip side is they've sorted that out, but it's like trying to stick your fingers in holes in a boat. You take your finger, put your finger in one hole and there's water coming in. France's scrum, like I could imagine South Africa are looking to do a job like they did against Ireland when they play France, because I think they will think that they can absolutely batter them at scrum time. So I expect penalties to be a scrum when it comes to the box, and they're going to do that again. I think Ireland are an interesting one, because Ireland are they've got such good rugby players, really intelligent rugby players, that they just have that kind of fight. They can just stay in the game, but they've got their attacking mojo back, and I'm sure that will be something that's been registered. It feels like the sort of 2022 Irish attack. Again, set piece is a bit of an issue. So those would be some of the things I imagine would be takeaways. Do you agree or disagree or anything else?
No, I definitely agree. I'm also just thinking about Wales, like from a South African perspective. We've always, and now bar the last game where we beat them 72-0 or whatever it was, but Wales seem to be sorting things out. And traditionally, that Springbok-Wales game has always been, like, we've always struggled to beat Wales. It's always been the same style of rugby, playing the same style of rugby, and it's who's going to get bored the quickest and make a mistake. So I'm also just wondering if Wales are going to be in a spot come, I think we play them in November, come November where it is going to be, they're just going to look to frustrate the Springboks. They seem to have figured a couple things out. They can now defend. They have shoulders. They have arms. Wales and Italy are my slight worries. I know like France, Ireland, England, we kind of know what that entails, but Wales and Italy are sort of the unknown factors. Italy have shown that they can beat big teams. Wales, I'm not going to go that far, but they're still a scary side for a Springbok outfit, just because of the history and how they sort of seem to play each other and how the game plans get nullified. So I'm wondering if Rassie Erasmus has taken a closer look at especially Italy and Wales. Like, we know France, Ireland, and England are big teams. Scotland are big teams. But I'm scared as a South African that maybe Italy and Wales are flying under the radar just a little bit and can maybe jump us on their day.
That's interesting. Well, that just says what a good place international rugby's at. You think back a year or two and everyone was thinking Australia are an absolute basket case, they're useless. And that them getting better has strengthened the Rugby Championship, albeit it's not happening this year, but on any other year. And the Six Nations, hopefully, Wales can keep getting better, and that raises the lower quality because they've been really poor for the last couple of years. What I found really interesting about the Six Nations is and the Rugby Championship last year and just international rugby in general. It's just the amount of points that are being scored and the amount that the games. The teams seem to have adjusted to the laws. There's no more law changes, so things are going to stay the same for a while. And the attack is getting dialed up more and more and more, isn't it? Like those transition moments when there's kicks that get tapped down or there's a turnover, teams are going wide really early. So I'm not so sure you're going to end up in too many arm wrestles like you mentioned against Wales at previous World Cups, where it's been a high kicking pressure defense test. I think attacks are on top at the minute, and I think if anyone does try and take on the Boks in an arm wrestle, that's a fight you're going to lose. So I'm not sure many teams are going to try that tactic against the Boks.
What's also scary from a Springbok point of view this year is there's a 70-man squad. Last year, Rassie rotated 49 or 50 players. This year, I feel like our fixtures are a lot more difficult. We've got the Nations Championship against all the Six Nations teams. We've got a massive tour against New Zealand. There's a couple of other test matches popping up, one against Australia, the Barbarians. There isn't necessarily a Portugal or a Romania that we're playing this year. And we know that Rassie Erasmus is going to rotate. He is going to use 50 players this year. So while we could win every single game, and I think that was the expectation last year from a lot of people, is that the Springboks are going to go unbeaten this year. We ended up losing to Australia and New Zealand. This year, I'm a little bit scared that we're going to potentially over-rotate. Rassie's always said the first goal is winning, the second is depth and rotation. So we need to win while we rotate. I feel like all the teams, like you say, international rugby teams are so close at the minute that there could be a couple of games where we over-rotate, get it wrong, and we could look back at the end of the year and have a 65-70% win record. What are your thoughts on that?
I guess, I can see that, but I guess the one thing you want to look back on is after a Rugby World Cup, where did we place? And I know maybe sometimes too much gets made of it's all about the World Cup, it's all about the World Cup. Actually, I can tell you as an England fan, I'd quite like to do well in the Six Nations and not just like pull it out of the bag and go deep at a Rugby World Cup. So the between World Cups, and especially in terms of, when people look back at the great teams of all time, people point to the stats between World Cups and the win records and stuff. But whatever decision is made this year is going to be in service of the bigger plan of 2027. And, that gets won by the Boks again. And there's going to be statues of Sia and Rassie, isn't there? So there'll be no argument about the greatest team of all time. There'll be no argument about a legacy. And it's not for ego, just purely because that's the target. Everything that's done this year is going to be in service of that ultimate goal. And that's one thing. I remember saying this back in 2024 when I was out in South Africa and I was on a podcast out there. And one of the things I said was, I really admire how Rassie Erasmus is willing to lose or willing to risk losing in order to ultimately win. And I think that's a lesson that other teams should take note of.
Do France not do that when they sort of travel to New Zealand or play in the Southern Hemisphere? Or do you think that's a completely different mindset?
That is, you could, well, yes, I guess that is true. I mean, that is partly because the best players are usually involved in the top 14 final, which is the weekend before, and you can't play in Paris on a Saturday night 1 week, and then in New Zealand 6 days later. You can't do that. You can't ask players to do that. But it's also because the top 14 is 10 months long and a slog, and players play a load of games and they need a rest at some point. So, it's just to give players a rest. So I guess that is in service of a Rugby World Cup, because they could flog them and play in 12 months of the year, 35, 40 games a year, but they'd be broken and they'd have to get a completely new team by 2027. It's fascinating. Rugby's in such a good spot at the minute. It's in such a good spot. I love it.
It is. Just looking forward to this year. What are the top 3 matchups that you can't wait to see? It doesn't have to be Springboks. Doesn't have to be England.
Yeah.
Like the top 3.
I was just thinking when we started this channel and how excited I was about Johannesburg in July. Not so much now. I'm still going to be there. So the top 3 matchups this year. I mean, France, South Africa in November is going to be dynamite, and actually, do South Africa play Ireland in Dublin again? That return is going to be amazing as well. And the one that I'm so excited about, that I'm going to be there for, and you and I will be there at, is the what's the stadium? The FNB Stadium in Johannesburg.
Soccer City,
South Africa, New Zealand. Those are the 3 games. Those are the 3 games I hope to be at, and those are the 3 games that will be just the storylines, and the whole day is going to be amazing. Actually, I might knock off definitely Paris and Johannesburg, but is there another potential for the third one? What else would be an amazing match?
I'm just thinking like New Zealand, France, Australia. Do they have any massive fixtures?
No, France are going to be sending their BC team to France and Australia, so that's not going to be as big of a thing.
Fiji, England.
So Fiji's home games are all in the UK, which is a bit rubbish.
What's the reason behind that? The teams just don't want to travel, or it's too far?
It's money. No, it's actually arguably harder for England, because England have got to go from they're travelling from the UK to South Africa to play in Johannesburg. Then they go back and play in Liverpool against Fiji, and then they go to Argentina the next week.
Wow.
I mean, that's pretty brutal, isn't it? So it's just money. It's just cash.
So you're telling me England could lose all 3 of those?
It's feasible, isn't it? And you flip that round, so we could be in a situation where Wales have got Japan, Fiji, and I think then they play South Africa, but they got Japan and Fiji. So Wales could win. Wales could be on a 3-game winning streak, and England, I don't know when we're next going to win 3 games in a row.
Have you seen that? Have you seen that guy's not cutting his hair until Manchester United win 5 games in a row? Don't you want to start that for England?
I've always wondered what I would look like with dreadlocks. Oh, man. Oh, do you know what? It makes the good times. You'll know this. You mentioned 2017, 2018. How much sweeter did 2019 and 2023 feel having gone through that?
Yeah, 100%. That's why we just need to remind everyone, because we know that it's a purple patch, and it's quite a long purple patch, but at some point it is going to decline. At some point it is. So while we're here, just let us bask in it. Let us enjoy it. And maybe there's a third one coming up. If we win a third one, I apologize from all the South Africans, all the Springbok supporters. I'm apologizing in advance.
Yeah, it's all right. Well, you just have to doff your cap and say, well done, congratulations. But I know you're also, and I'm talking about you, Jordan, not South Africans, you're going to be unbearable. But that's fine. You'll have earned it.
I am.
Yeah. Great. I reckon on that note, we should wrap this up and say, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel if you appreciate the content here. Come and join the Republic of Rugby, and we'll be back soon.